This is NASA Television.
Good morning, this is Mission Control Houston. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's edition of ISS Update. This Friday, September 21st. We're now getting a live view inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room with the Orbit 2 team here being led by Flight Director Tony Sakachi, shown here in this view in the blue shirt, and next to him in the white shirt is Josh Matthews, serving as Capcom, who has been relaying all messages up to the crew. The crew aboard the International Space Station now is Commander Sonny Williams, Yuri Malenchenko, and Aki Hoshide. Williams, Malenchenko, and Hoshide had arrived at the station back on, or launched the station back on July 16th. Today is their 69th day in space. Meanwhile, while the crew aboard the International Space Station continues their busy workday, in the middle of their workday, we are going to take a break from ISS Update to bring you live coverage of the 747 Shuttle carrier aircraft that is carrying the Space Shuttle Endeavour as it prepares to depart from Edwards Air Force Base and begin a 4.5-hour flyover of Northern California and the Los Angeles Basin. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we're getting a live view of the shuttle carrier aircraft with the Space Shuttle Endeavour there atop, preparing for its takeoff there at the NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center and the Edwards Air Force Base. The shuttle carrier aircraft and Endeavour will salute NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center and the Edwards Air Force Base area after takeoff with a low flyby northbound to Sacramento and the San Francisco Bay Area. Several viewing locations that will include the Bay Area Discovery Museum, Chabot Space and Science Center, the California State Capitol, Exploratorium, Lawrence Hall of Science, and Monterey Bay Aquarium. Again, we are now watching the shuttle carrier aircraft as it is taxiing down the runway with Endeavour attached to its top, preparing for its takeoff here in just minutes. This is Mission Control Houston. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we are getting a live view of the shuttle carrier aircraft carrying Space Shuttle Endeavour as it prepares to depart from the Edwards Air Force Base in just a few minutes here to begin its 4.5-hour flyover of Northern California and the Los Angeles Basin. Weather is forecast to be clear for the entire flight. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we are bringing you now live coverage of the 747 shuttle carrier aircraft that is carrying Space Shuttle Endeavour as it prepares for its departure from the Edwards Air Force Base after an overnight stay at NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center. It will begin a 4.5-hour flyover of Northern California and the Los Angeles Basin. This is its last leg of its road trip to its final home in California. Again, this is live coverage of the 747 shuttle carrier aircraft with Space Shuttle Endeavour strapped to its back, preparing for takeoff. Takeoff is planned here in just about 6 minutes from now. The shuttle carrier aircraft and Endeavour will salute NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center and the Edwards Air Force Base area just after takeoff with a low flyby northbound to Sacramento and the San Francisco Bay Area. Again, takeoff is planned any minute now. We'll watch as it continues to taxi down the runway. This is Mission Control Houston. We are bringing live coverage of the 747 Shuttle carrier aircraft that's carrying Space Shuttle Endeavour as it prepares for takeoff there at Edwards Air Force Base after an overnight stay at NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center. The aircraft is expected to take off any minute now. And we'll salute NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center, the Edwards Air Force Base area, after takeoff with a low flyby northbound to Sacramento and the San Francisco Bay Area. Wheels up. This is Mission Control Houston. We're getting live coverage of a 747 Shuttle carrier aircraft carrying Space Shuttle Endeavour. Takeoff there from the Edwards Air Force Base on its last leg of its final ferry flight. Before reaching its future home at the California Science Center. Wheels up at 10:17 a.m. Central Time, 11:17 Eastern. Endeavour is the youngest of the Space Shuttle fleet, now headed to its future home at the California Science Center. First, the shuttle carrier aircraft and Endeavour will salute NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center in the Edwards Air Force Base area. There are several viewing locations that include the Bay Area Discovery Museum, Shuttle Space and Science Center, the California State Capitol, Exploratorium, Lawrence Hall of Science, and Monterey Bay Aquarium. We're now looking at a beautifully executed takeoff. What looks to be on a gorgeous day there. Folks are encouraged to go outside, look up, and take your best shot. And share your images on social media using the hashtag #SpotTheShuttle or OV105, which is Endeavour's vehicle designation. Endeavour's construction was completed back in July of 1990. It was then delivered to the Kennedy Space Center in May of 1991, and launched its first flight into space almost exactly 1 year later on May 7th of 1992. Space Shuttle Endeavour completed 25 successful flights. It had docked to the Mir space station once and to the International Space Station 12 times. Space Shuttle Endeavour had traveled more than 122 million miles and is now on its last leg to its future home. That'll be at the California Science Center in Los Angeles. This is Mission Control Houston. We're bringing you live coverage of the 747 shuttle carrier aircraft carrying Space Shuttle Endeavour, the youngest of the Space Shuttle fleet, after having departed from the Edwards Air Force Base after an overnight stay at NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center. After a low flyover various key landmarks there in the Bay Area, the aircraft will then travel south, making a pass over NASA's Ames Research Center and Vandenberg Air Force Base before heading into the Los Angeles area. Flyovers of Endeavour passing regional landmarks such as its future home at the California Science Center, Columbia Memorial Space Center in Downey, Disneyland, the Getty Center, Griffith Observatory, Los Angeles City Hall, the Long Beach Aquarium of the Pacific, Malibu Beach, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, the Queen Mary, Universal Studios, and Venice Beach, among others. finally, the shuttle carrier aircraft in Endeavour will land at about 2:45 p.m. Central Time, 12:45 p.m. at the Los Angeles International Airport for an arrival ceremony before Endeavour is then taken off the 747. The orbiter then will be transported to the California Science Center next month. This is Mission Control Houston. We're now back inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. We had been watching live coverage of the Space Shuttle carrier aircraft that has been carrying the Space Shuttle Endeavour as it departed from the Edwards Air Force Base after an overnight stay at NASA's Dryden Flight Research Center. Now on its 4.5-hour flyover of Northern California and the Los Angeles Basin. Again, we are getting a live view inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. This is the Orbit 2 team who continues to monitor the systems and oversee the cruise activities aboard the International Space Station. The crew aboard the International Space Station is Commander Sonny Williams, Yuri Malenchenko, and Aki Hoshide. They are now in the middle of their 69th day in space. They're 67th aboard the International Space Station. The space station with its crew aboard is now flying at an altitude of a little more than 260 statute miles. It's on a southeastern track coming across the South Atlantic Ocean, just between the east coast of Brazil and the west coast of Africa. Here now we're getting a view inside the International Space Station of Japanese astronaut, flight engineer Aki Hoshide. Hoshide has been working on installing the Japanese experiment module small satellite orbital deployer onto the multi-purpose experiment platform. Deployment of the satellites is scheduled for September 27th. Today he also installs 3 alignment guides in the combustion integrated rack. He'll also attach the message in a Bottle 2 experiment to the multi-purpose experiment platform. And we'll be gathering tools for ATV-3. This is also known as the Eduardo Amaldi, the European cargo craft that arrived at the station back in March. The hatch is closed, scheduled for next Monday, and its departure scheduled the following day on September 25th. Meanwhile, here we're also getting a view right here in the center of Commander Sonny Williams. Today, Williams has been working on the setup of the elaborate Imagine a Televised Space 2, the Elite S2 experiment. She had also reconfigured the medical laptop medium rate data link cable and gathered hardware for maintenance on the carbon dioxide removal assembly. She also had a session of crew medical officer proficiency training, and just moments ago completed a hand pass with the Lafayette Middle School in Lafayette, Georgia. She'll also be working on some water transfers into a contingency water container as maintenance of the water recovery system. This is the system aboard the International Space Station that converts sweat, urine, and condensation into drinkable water for the crew aboard the International Space Station. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we're getting live view inside the International Space Station with Aki Hoshide. They're just on the left-hand side of your screen and just a little out of a view here, but up toward the top right-hand side is Commander of the Orbiting Complex, Sonny Williams. And now we're back inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Again, this is the Orbit 2 team being led by Flight Director Tony Sakachi, and serving as Capcom today is Josh Matthew. He's been relaying all ground messages up to the crew. Meanwhile, here at the Johnson Space Center here in Houston, we have Public Affairs Officer Brandy Dean, who is out at one of our facilities overseeing or looking at the suit port testing that is taking place today. Today they'll be talking about the manned vacuum chamber test that is happening right now of the Z1 suit. This is our advanced spacesuit prototype with the suit port, which would allow us to do space swaps more quickly. We'll go to her now. Brandy Dean, this is Mission Control Houston.
Thanks, Amiko. As Amiko said, we are here in Building 32, which is where our Chamber B is, one of the vacuum chambers we have here at Johnson Space Center that's rated to be used by humans, one of the ways that we simulate space here on Earth. And with us we've got Christina Enchando, who is the test director for some tests we've been doing with the Z1 spacesuit that we have here behind us and the suit port. Thanks so much for joining us, Christina.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. So obviously we're not at vacuum, but we are in a vacuum chamber. Why don't we start there? Tell us what a vacuum chamber kind of does and why we would do a test in it.
Okay. Well, we use the vacuum chambers to simulate space. We will during a test, we would remove all the air inside the chamber, reducing the pressure inside, just to give us a feel for that the environment of space. And there are multiple reasons why we would want to test in space. One, we want to make sure that our hardware will survive the environment of space, and also for being able to get a feel for the suit and how it would operate in a space-like environment.
So let's kind of go one piece at a time here. Z1 suit.
This is the Z1 suit.
New suit we're designing for exploration,
yes.
Right? So we want to do different things when we go into future exploration. On the space station, you use your hands a lot for exploration. If you're going to, say, an asteroid or Mars, you would be walking around a lot. And that requires different spacesuits. So we're working on a new design. And then we also, part of the design is that it would be incorporated with a suit port. And tell us a little bit about a suit port. What does that do?
Well, the suit port is the interface between your space vehicle and the exploration suit. So the suit port allows you to quickly get into the suit and be ready for exploring.
So right here, it looks it's kind of against a wall, but in real life, in the future, it would be on the end or on the outside of a vehicle, a rover or a spaceship of some sort.
That's right.
This will be hanging off the back outside, while the crew, the astronauts, are inside. And then they can open this part up, right, and then climb in from the back.
Yes, there's a hatch on the other side, so you would open the hatch, get inside, close the hatch, and then the volume inside is equalized with the outside environment, and that allows you to detach from the suit port and begin exploring.
Okay, and let's see, we were talking earlier about vacuum. Obviously on the outside in space, this part where we are now would be at a vacuum, but inside it would be at a little bit lower air pressure than we have on the space station. That's about sea level. It'd be lower because it's smaller volume, we can keep it lower, and then this is at the same air pressure, which makes it quicker. We don't have to do a pre-breathe protocol like you've probably seen for spacewalks if you watch NASA TV, right?
Right.
Okay, so tell us how the tests work. What have y'all been having done here?
What have we been doing this week? So this is a different design of suit port. So a couple of months ago we were testing a suit port design that had clamps on it, and they were actuated by a motor. This suit port design does not use a motor. It uses airbags and flippers, and so it's been working very well. In order to undock from the suit port, we'll put air into these airbags, and the flippers would rotate into the undock position, releasing the subject. So we've been kind of practicing that, evaluating the suit port, and at the same time evaluating the suit itself. So the test subjects would actually release from the suit port, come out, bend over, see if they could adjust their boots, and turn around, inspect their suit port, make sure everything's okay, and practice redocking to the suit port.
Okay, so you've had, I guess, engineers and astronauts on the other side of this wall?
Yes, yes. Inside the suit, we've had engineering test subjects as well as crew.
Okay, and they climb in, and like you said, just kind of do the lever to release themselves and walk away, and then basically redo it and get back out.
Yes.
So, and that helps you just make sure that this idea of the suit port works. And
yes, it's to demonstrate pressurized donning of the suit for one. So during the test, the chamber is at reduced pressure, creating a pressure differential across the suit. So the test subject would don a pressurized suit. So we're evaluating how well that works, because it's
different
than what we do now. And the other part of the evaluation is to just evaluate the donning, the docking and undocking of the suit port.
Right.
In the pressurized suit.
So right now the suit is not pressurized.
The suit is not pressurized. Right
How
now.
is it different when it is?
It gets stiffer. It'll start inflating like a balloon as we reduce the pressure.
And so that's something you really can't test outside of a vacuum chamber, right?
That's right.
And you want to know how that's going to work before you go into space and have to do it for the first time.
Definitely.
But everything's going well so far?
It is. It's been going very well. We're very excited. We've had 2 test subjects come through this week, and we expect 3 more next week.
And I think this is kind of the final milestone of the year for y'all, right?
Yes.
And
Yes,
kind of all of your work's been leading up to proving that the suit port works, and we think that it does.
Right. Yes. It
So
does.
hopefully we'll be seeing that in the future as we move out beyond low Earth orbit. Thanks so much, Christina.
Thank you.
We'll go back now to Amiko and Mission Control. Thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. We are back inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. That again was Public Affairs Officer Brandy Dean out there with the suit port testing to talk about the manned vacuum chamber test of the Z1 suit, that advanced spacesuit prototype. Good day, this is Mission Control Houston. We're now getting a view inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where the team has been monitoring the systems aboard the station and supporting the day's activities of the Expedition 33 crew members. Leading the Orbit 2 team here in the Station Flight Control Room today is Flight Director Tony Sakachi, and next to him serving as Capcom is Josh Matthew. He's been relaying all ground messages up to the crew. Now aboard the International Space Station is commander of the complex, NASA astronaut Sunny Williams, with flight engineers Russian cosmonaut Yuri Malenchenko and Japanese astronaut Aki Hoshide, who will work aboard the station as a 3-member crew until the arrival of 3 new crew members in mid to late October. Malenchenko, Williams, and Hoshide had arrived at the International Space Station after docking their Soyuz spacecraft TMA-05M to the Rossviet module on July 16th. Today, they complete 69 days in space. The space station with its crew aboard is flying at an altitude of about a little more than 260 statute miles. The orbiting facility is on a southeastern track just below the southern tip of Africa across the Southern Ocean. The Expedition 33 crew members had begun their day with the first of 2 daily planning conferences with ground controllers around the world to review the day's activities and plan for the next set of tasks. And now here's for a look back in space this week. On Monday, the Expedition 33 crew aboard the International Space Station began its week with a light duty day after the departure Sunday of the 3 Expedition 32 crew members. The Soyuz TMA-04M carrying Expedition 32 Commander Gennady Padalka and flight engineers Joe Akaba and Sergei Revin landed safely in Kazakhstan on Sunday night. Expedition 32 officially ended when the trio undocked about 4 hours earlier from the Poisk module. On Monday, flight engineer Aki Hoshide opened the lab window shutter for the International Space Station Agriculture Camera, or ISAC, science payload. ISAC takes frequent images in visible and infrared light of vegetated areas. ISAC is also used to study dynamic Earth processes around the world, such as melting glaciers, ecosystem responses to seasonal changes and human impacts, and rapid response monitoring of natural disasters. Also on Monday, Expedition 33 Commander Sunny Williams had performed maintenance on the Advanced Resistive Exercise device. She had deployed 2 environmental health system formaldehyde monitoring kits and relocated Soyuz emergency equipment. Then on Tuesday, it was another light duty day for the crew aboard the International Space Station. Nonetheless, the Expedition 33 crew focused on science and cargo craft activities. Working in the station's Columbus module, Commander Williams had checked out the Erasmus recording binocular, a video camera that will be used to take 3D images of the interior of the station. Williams also participated in a session with the Spaceflight Cognitive Assessment Tool for Windows, or WinSCAT. It's a test that tracks changes in a crew member's cognitive abilities during a long-duration spaceflight. She had also conducted the reversible figures experiment, shown here in this video downlink, which tracks how the adaptation of an astronaut's neurovestibular system to weightlessness may alter their 3D visual perception. Also on Tuesday, Hoshide had photographed the racks inside the European Space Agency's Automated Transfer Vehicle, ATV-3, which delivered 7.2 tons of food, fuel, and supplies, and will depart the station on September 25th for a destructive reentry in Earth's atmosphere a day later. Hochet and Williams teamed up in the afternoon to prepare for the arrival of another cargo craft, the SpaceX Dragon. The two astronauts reviewed the procedures for grappling Dragon with the station's robotic arm and berthing it to an Earth-facing side of the station's Harmony node. And on the Russian side of the station, Malenchenko had spent most of his morning on weekly housekeeping chores, cleaning ventilation screens, and inspecting the air conditioner. Later, Malenchenko had checked on the identification experiment, which measures the loads on the space station's structure during dynamic events such as dockings, reboost, spacewalks, and exercise sessions. On Wednesday, Expedition 33 Commander Sunny Williams was surprised by the family of Sally Ride when they wished her a happy birthday from Mission Control Center. Williams and Hochet got together to review cargo and gear they will pre-pack in preparation for the arrival of the SpaceX Dragon cargo craft in October. The duo also reviewed Dragon rendezvous procedures. Williams had later checked the Harmony node's centerline berthing camera system, where the Dragon will be berthed when it arrives next month. And Hochet had answered questions about life in space from listeners on Nippon Radio. He also had a ham radio pass with students from Poland, and he had worked throughout the station sampling air, replacing batteries, and cleaning the bacteria filters. And on Wednesday, a space shuttle Endeavour, whose last mission was to the International Space Station, landed at Ellington Field in Houston atop a 747 shuttle carrier aircraft. Endeavour's final destination is Los Angeles today, where it will be delivered to the California Science Center. And on Thursday, Commander Sunny Williams and flight engineers Aki Hochet and Yuri Malenchenko have participated in an emergency drill to sharpen the crew's response to specific emergency cases. Williams and Hochet also took part in a robotics training session to prepare for the rendezvous of the SpaceX Dragon cargo craft in October. Williams also performed some maintenance on the combustion integrated rack and updated software on the COTS UHF communications unit and the Dragon crew command panel. Hochet had stowed cargo and took photographs inside the European Space Agency's automated transfer vehicle 3, known as Eduardo Amaldi. Again, this is scheduled to depart from the station next Tuesday on September 25th for a destructive re-entry in Earth's atmosphere the following day. And then Malenchenko had worked in the Russian segment of the station, monitoring its systems and performing a variety of housekeeping and maintenance duties. And today, Friday, Commander Sunny Williams is working on the setup of the elaborate Imagine a Televised Space 2, the Elite S2 experiment. She had reconfigured the medical laptop medium rate data link cable, gathered hardware for maintenance on the carbon dioxide removal assembly, had a session of crew medical officer proficiency training, and also participated in a ham pass with Lafayette Middle School, Lafayette, and transferred water into a contingency water container of the water recovery system. Meanwhile, today, Hochet worked on installing the Japanese experiment module Small Satellite Orbital Deployer onto a multi-purpose experiment platform. Deployment of those satellites is scheduled for September 27th. He had also installed 3 alignment guides in combustion integrated rack, attached the Message in a Bottle 2 experiment to the multi-purpose experiment platform, gathered tools for ATV-3, again Eduardo Amaldi, the European cargo craft that had arrived at the station back in March. Hatch is closed scheduled for next Monday, and again that departure is scheduled for Tuesday on September 25th. Each of the crew members will have put in their daily 2 hours of exercise using the onboard gym equipment that includes a station bicycle, a treadmill, and an advanced resistive exercise device that simulates weightlifting here on Earth. The crew will then wrap the day with a final daily planning conference with the ground to begin their weekend aboard the International Space Station. The crew is then scheduled to go to bed at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. This is Mission Control Houston. This is Mission Control Houston. We're getting a view inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Again, this is the Orbit 2 team who continues to monitor the systems and the crew's activities aboard the International Space Station. The crew, again, Commander Sonny Williams with Yuri Malenchenko and Aki Hoshide will remain as a 3-member crew aboard the International Space Station at least until mid to late October, when their new 3 crew members will join them there aboard the International Space Station. Flight engineers Kevin Ford, Oleg Novitsky, and Yevgeny Tarelkin are slated to launch in October aboard the Soyuz TMA-06M and will join the Expedition 33 crew. Today, that crew is busy taking qualification exams in Star City, Russia. We have some video of that activity now for you here on NASA television.
Expedition 33 is prepared for flight. Russian segment is prepared. Everything is clear? That's good.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we're getting a some video from today's activities in Star City, Russia. This is the next crew to join the crew aboard the International Space Station. Talking there on the left-hand side is NASA astronaut Kevin Ford.
How long have you been training on Russian simulators?
He and Oleg Novitsky and Yevgeny Tarelkin are slated to launch in October aboard their Soyuz TMA-06M and will join the Expedition 33 crew. Their spacecraft will be docking to the Poisk module of the International Space Station.
This is your first flight. Are you nervous? No, not yet. Thank you, everyone. It depends because the results of the test determine a lot of things. If for some reason there are concerns, it's one thing, but if the crew shows good work, then that's good. It is also possible to reschedule, retest. How confident are you that the crew will succeed? Well, I'm sure that they're good professionals. I know they've been training for a long time and they've been studying well. Now, if a backup crew is a little bit better, that doesn't necessarily mean that they will be the ones that will become the prime crew, though.
And we're back now inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Again, that was just some footage out at Star City, Russia, that was taken of the next crew that is to join the Expedition 33 crew now aboard the International Space Station. The new crew, again, are NASA astronaut Kevin Ford and Russian cosmonauts Oleg Novinsky and Yevgeny Tarelkin, who are slated to launch in October. Meanwhile, aboard the International Space Station, Commander Sonny Williams, Malenchenko, and Aki Hoshide continue their busy workday aboard the International Space Station. And here in this room, in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, the Orbit 2 team continues to monitor their systems and their activities aboard the space station until Monday. This is Mission Control Houston.